Hey guys, and welcome to Politics Snaps. Now you're about to watch an interview I did with Lucy Harris, who founded Leavers of London, which went on to become Leavers of Britain, which is a pro-Brexit group. It's kind of started off as a bit of a social group. I think there's some campaigning activity as well. But obviously we talk a lot about Brexit, about Theresa May's deal, about where things are going. So I hope you find this interesting. Also, I'm heading towards 200 subscribers, which I know isn't a lot for most people, but for me, that's a lot. So if you want to subscribe, I would be very grateful. And I hope you find this interesting. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm joined by Lucy from Leavers of Britain. So I believe you founded, was it first Leavers of London and then that turned into Leavers of Britain?
Yes, Leavers of London for people who felt ostracised in London for having voted Leave, and then expanding the brand across the UK to get more people involved.
So, I mean, obviously, the obvious thing to start with is the Brexit deal. What do you make of the Brexit deal? Does it honour the referendum result?
Absolutely not. It has lots of articles in it that contradicts and makes everything a bit fuzzy legally, which means that basically the first problem is that it's all in EU speak. So, I mean, there's been lots of people from our side basically saying that it's already in their ballpark. The conversation, legal tonality, the legal conversation, the legal terms are already sort of in EU speak. And then if you go further down in the articles, Article 7 is an issue. It basically sells off basically extends the withdrawal agreement and extends it for a very long period of time, an endless period of time if the EU saw fit. And there's also articles in there like Article 101, which means we can't prosecute an EU official in our own country, which I find completely abhorrent. So, there's lots of articles throughout it, which has been rebutted by Martin Ho QC. In The Spectator this week, the government did a rebuttal and then Martin went back and did another rebut. So if you go and look at those, you'll see for yourself how much of a bad deal this is.
Great. So obviously the deal's coming before Parliament and balance probably it's going to get rejected. I'm assuming you're hoping it's going to be rejected. If that happens, what do you think is the next step for Brexiteers?
Well, the issue is with it coming to Parliament and that it's going to come to Parliament 3 times. And obviously it's so unpopular. Even for Remainers, it's incredibly unpopular. Also, it means for us, we're sort of in this world where we have literally no say, absolutely no say, but still all the laws and regulations tied to us as if we were in the EU. So it is incredibly bad for both sides. So you have a situation where both Remain and Leave don't like this deal. It's going to go to the Houses of Parliament. No one really supports it. Theresa May seems on her own by herself with this deal, and she is, and I think it will get voted down the first time, but it's got to go through another 2 votes, and that's where we really risk it going through. So it's about keeping up pressure on those people who are going to potentially vote for that deal to say, actually, no, the British public didn't ask for this, they don't want it, and if you're going to vote for it, your seat's in trouble.
And what practically are Leavers of Britain going to do? So how is your lobbying operation going to work? How are you going to try?
Well, predominantly we're a social group, so I'm not looking to actively, attack anybody. But I think for other people in the group, it's a mixture of people who are quite passive about the situation, who just really want to make friends who voted Leave, or they just want to see who's out there, or likewise Remainers who want to get to know Leave voters. And we've had a lot of Remainers come to our group. So, I know it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. So we've had, a mixture of people. But then we also have people who are activists who want to meet up and, start doing something positive towards getting the Brexit that we voted for. So those guys have been going out, leafleting around the country. We've had some in Bournemouth, Poole, some people in York, Manchester, doing a bit of leafleting. We've also had a lot of people writing to their MPs, and I encourage people to write to their MPs in a very polite and friendly manner. We've been doing lots of stuff. We've been doing mini protests, but obviously they're fun mini protests, they're calm mini protests, and we've been going down to 10 Downing Street to do that. So lots of little activities across the country.
I mean, going back a little bit, how did Leavers of, obviously not Leavers of Britain now, but Leavers of London actually start?
Leavers of London, what a way back. so Leavers of London, 2 years ago, I found myself in a peculiar position. I had friends who were incredibly Remain. Obviously, I'm 28 years old. Back then I was 25 years old. And we had people who well, basically I felt that I couldn't be the only one in London that had voted Leave. Clearly I wasn't, because of course 40.1% of people voted Leave in London. So I thought, I feel quite isolated. All my friends are Remainers. My boyfriend at the time was a massive Remainer. So I thought, why not make a social group? Why not find other people and sort of like talk about it? Because at the time, articles in the Evening Standard were insisting that we were horrible, horrible racists. We were thick or we were too old to matter. And I just thought that's unacceptable. We have to show a positive side to the Leave vote, and we have to show that actually we're just normal people like everybody else. So I managed to get a group together. The first time, about 15 people showed up. I now have 1,000 members across London, and I think that's a success. We've had people getting together, forming relationships. We've had business deals being done, people meeting and networking, and friendships being made. And I think that's a really positive thing for Brexit Britain.
Were you surprised by how quickly it grew?
Yes. In fact, I could say that it's got a bit out of hand. It's got a bit out of hand. It grows really quickly because it touches on something that everybody can relate to, and that's the social fallout from Brexit. Everybody has a story. Either, it's Christmas is coming up, there's going to be an argument at the table for sure. If you have a Remainer granddad and a Leave voting, sister-in-law, there's going to be a punch-up, metaphorically. Or heaven forbid it would actually be one. So everyone's got a story where they've had a situation where there's been a social fallout. They've lost a friend, or in their workplaces there's been trouble. I mean, we've had lots of stories come into Leavers of London and around the UK where people have felt ostracised at work. They go to the staff room and there's people, having a go at Leave voters again, and basically calling them racist. And there you go. One of your teacher colleagues actually voted Leave and you've just called her a racist. How is that supposed to make them feel? How is that supposed to have a positive workplace environment? And likewise, we've had people who are, members of, an orchestra who haven't been asked to do work because everybody knows that they're Leave voters. And the list goes on of things that have happened. So I think it touches on people's everyday lives. It's something they can relate to. And I think that's why Leavers of London spread so fast, especially in this city, in London, because obviously you've got the media elite, the media professionals who do hold a lot of influence here. So it's constant. It's a constant onslaught against, in my opinion, Leave voters. And I actually did a poll amongst my followers and amongst my members, and they said that 85% of them feel that London is hostile towards Leave voters. So it's not just a figment of my imagination. They feel that way, and therefore they want to get together and actually chat about it and want to have a conversation about Brexit and maybe even the negative things about Brexit without being called a racist or without having, some aggression or even sort of like an argument, when they just want to have a nice conversation.
I mean, do you think there are quite a lot of closet Brexiteers in London and kind of other sort of liberal cities who are
yes.
who find it very difficult to,
Yep.
Perhaps an occupation you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be in?
Yeah, I think there's probably, 40.1% of people who bothered to vote in London voted Leave, which, you'd think it would be a lot less considering how the Remain media here in London talk about it, especially the Evening Standard. But, I think there's a lot of closet people out there that voted Leave and kind of put their head down at the staff room meetings and, don't really want to get into that conversation. But with Leavers of London, Leavers of Britain, you can. So come along, make some friends.
So how did it spread from London specific to the UK as a whole? Because that's quite recent, isn't it?
Yes,
few months.
It's very recent. So it's always been a bit of a fantasy, I guess, to kind of get it up and running into sort of a national thing, because I think it's a positive thing. I think the people in my group and what I do and the branding and everything that it's about is about being positive, and it's about bringing those people together. It's about social connections, something that I think was fundamentally lacking beforehand, especially here in London, where the community I felt was under attack. And that's why the strapline for Leavers of Britain is a nationwide community of Leave voters. It's about starting to collect those people who believe in an independent country. It's starting to collect them together to build those bonds, make them stronger, and actually say to the rest of the country, if you don't like the EU and you want to be an independent country, that's okay.
I mean, if the referendum is overturned or the Theresa May's deal goes through, which obviously you don't regard as a proper Brexit, what do you think that would mean for British democracy?
I mean, it's on a very thin string right now. I mean, it's scary. It's scary because it's something that we've built over hundreds and hundreds of years. It's something that the suffragettes fought for. It's something that people have fought for in this country for hundreds of years, and for it to be gone in such a backhanded, in such a discreet and slippery way, I find incredibly sad. I find I think we'd have to sort of look at ourselves and say, so how do we picture ourselves now? Because one of the values of being British, I think, is to uphold democracy no matter what. And I think to sort of overturn it by not respecting the referendum, I think we're going to have to stand back and reevaluate who we actually are as a country.
I mean, do you think there's a kind of, well, obviously there's an active campaign to overturn the referendum result. Do you think they've got a realistic chance of succeeding? Is that something you're worried about?
I mean, so I guess we're talking about the people's vote.
Yes.
I think Theresa May, I mean, if you look at the people's vote and what they were planning to do, they were planning to do a three-way second referendum, which would have been Remain, then it would have been Leave without a deal, and then it would be Theresa May's deal. Yeah. What Theresa May has basically put on the table is that, but take off Leave without a deal. So she's taken off WTO deal straight away. She's already playing in to the sort of people's vote narrative, but making sure absolutely that Brexiteers can't get their way. So in that sense, I think they've inadvertently, got it through. There is a chance only if they get a mandate for it, which would mean there would have to be a large polling or political pressure to have a second referendum. But the polls have been consistent, even the ones that they've been paying for, which is millions. Polls have consistently said that people don't want a second referendum, they just want to get on with Brexit.
But isn't that changing over the last kind of few months? So the support for a second referendum has been increasing.
I mean, I think, but if you look at over the aggregate of time, I think, there hasn't been one. I think the support for second referendum is only due to the fact that Theresa May has put those two prospects on the table and not provided a WTO Brexit on the table. And I think if she had done that, I think the desire for a second referendum would actually be depleted.
Now, a lot of people say, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of Leavers, including, we were speaking before, Patrick O'Flynn, who I spoke to a couple of days ago, who said, and Dominic Raab said the same, I mean, quite a few said that the deal that May has put forward is worse than Remain, because in terms of kind of like democratic legitimacy and representation without, or kind of taxation without representation. Is that your view? Do you think the deal's so bad that it's worse than Remain?
I mean, that's a question I was asked live on BBC Politics, and it's a terrible deal. But I don't think we have to choose between those two. I think we should be putting political pressure now to offer a third way, which is something that we voted for. I don't think it is a choice between the two, and it shouldn't be a choice between the two.